Hashtag Doggy People with Phil Lassman.
Hello, it's me, and welcome to Hashtag Doggy People, the show about life, love, and dogs. Now, unbelievably, we've come to the end of series 2, and I thought we've got to do something really special for this. So I thought, I'll get 2 co-hosts. Now, look, I don't know if you've heard of Peter Egan or Mark Abram, but these 2 guys, I've managed to get them to come on. We're going to film it in 3 parts, so there's going to be 3 episodes featuring all the guests that have taken part in the series so far. I hope you enjoy them, and without any further ado, let's get into part 1. Here they are. Enjoy.
Hi, Mark, and hi, Phil.
Hello,
Hi, Peter.
guys.
Hi, Phil.
Hello, Titans. You are my 2 Titans, as I refer to you. Sir Peter Egan and beautiful Chuchi Mark is what I say. Thank you so much for joining me today. We've had a fantastic run on Doggy People. We've spoken to some of the biggest names, I believe, in dog welfare and animal welfare. And gosh, I have learned so much in doing this series. I'd like to just sort of go back and speak to you about some of the guests that we've had on the series, because they have been incredible people, achieved some incredible pieces of work in their time. And I'd like to start by mentioning 2 people that we all know and love so very well. They're quite eccentric characters, which is why I adore them, but they do the most amazing work as well. I'm talking, of course, of Angela and Martin Humphrey.
The woman who'd started the Greyhounds Indeed, the charity doing this work, rang me up and said, "Martin, I'd like you to become a trustee. Don't worry about it. It's only 3 meetings a year. It's a novel." Like a fool, I said yes. Within a few months of my saying yes, she had to retire from work because she was very ill, and her husband, who's the other principal trustee, died. So there I am with a charity on my hands with, thank God, a very good general manager, and that was about it. We rescue and rehome all over Europe, about 600 of them a year.
600 in 1 year?
Yeah, that's just scratching the surface. There are thousands and thousands.
They are just brilliant, aren't they? In fact, it was Angela who introduced me to my favorite charity on the planet, Animals Asia. I'm eternally grateful to Angela for introducing me. And both Angela and Martin are indefatigable. They're extraordinary. God knows how much money they've raised for a whole variety of small charities.
I can tell you, they've actually raised almost £1 million.
Wow.
£1 million. I got it from the horse's mouth. They told me this themselves, and that's accumulation over the years. And it's astonishing, to think that they're both in their 90s. They're still going strong, still with all the enthusiasm, determination as ever. I mean, to me, they're like the Richard and Judy of animal welfare.
I think, in one word, inspirational. I mean, to be so passionate for so long, was it 8 decades, maybe more, in terms of actively helping, being part of improving animal welfare. I mean, I read Angela's book, was blown away. They're also great facilitators. Like Peter said, they introduce people to different charities. They're like the glue, really, behind the scenes of animal welfare. For me, I can't thank them enough. The first time I properly met Ricky Gervais was at one of their garden parties. And I actually got the time to sit with Ricky and Jane at the bottom of Angela and Martin's garden and just talk things through. And that created this bond, which is obviously, as anyone watching will understand, is like gold in terms of animal welfare. To meet Ricky and to be able to explain a campaign to him and get him to engage. So I'm forever grateful for that. But, they love greyhounds, and I love greyhounds. They help so many charities. They're so proactive. It's like being cuddled by a warm animal welfare blanket when you're around them. There's a security associated with them because they've been there, they've seen it, they've done it for decades, and it's just lovely to tap into that energy. I feel very privileged to know them, for sure.
I feel the same way, Mark. In fact, I've actually come to be very good friends with them, because Ira sees them an awful lot. And I just think, I had to have them on the show because it's all very well having the very well-known people come on to the show, but I thought that they were the typical unsung heroes of animal welfare.
Very much so.
They introduced me to GINS, Greyhounds in Need. That's the charity that Martin is president of.
Absolutely.
I'm now patron for GINS. And they also introduced me to Spanner. And I am now a patron of Spanner as well. So they never stop working.
Angela and Martin also introduced me to my personal passion for greyhounds, because we've done a lot of work on greyhounds through Percy, because I adored Percy. I thought I'd never ever seen a greyhound that was actually kept as a pet until I met Percy. And he was amazing, astonishing. So we're saluting you, Angela and Martin. I'm going to see you again very soon, I know. But bless you. You are both fantastic. And long may you continue. My next guest, well, I mean, this lady is absolutely astonishing. I'm referring to Michelle Clark of Dogs on the Street.
The initial inspiration to start helping out there was a man and his dog that used to sit in Crouch End. I remember I went down to my local shopping centre and I got an old mushroom box. I remember them, Phil. And I put all like little goodies in there for the dog. And I just decided to go up one day, say hello, and I just said, look, I've got this little package for your dog. Is that all right? And I just never forget the gratitude. It was like a shock. Like I was just handing him like a bar of gold.
I mean, to me, Michelle's like a candidate off The Apprentice, only much funnier. She works like a beaver. She's multi-talented, and I think she's absolutely incredible to establish what she has established in not a terribly long period of time. I think she's absolutely an awesome individual.
I would agree entirely with that. And of course, I have to say that. Well, I don't have to say that, but I will say it because, of course, I'm a patron for Dogs on the Streets as well. And that was...
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. And yes, you're quite right. Michelle is a force of nature. She is extraordinary. Her energy is extraordinary. Her commitment to homeless people and their health and well-being, and of course the dogs that are their companions. And it's important never ever to separate a person who's living on the street from their companion animal, which happens very often when they are put into a shelter. She works tirelessly to make sure that doesn't happen, or if it does happen, she will look after the dog until they can be reunited. So I think she's an inspirational force of nature, really.
Exceptionally lovely person, working in an environment that's often hostile and that's often ignored by, let's say, other organizations that have the more resources to adequately deal with the problems and the solutions. But as Peter said, you know, to take dogs when people get into problems, to take those dogs off them and make sure they're okay and kept healthy and treat them as necessary until those people can return to their situation. A lot of campaigning is relationship building, and for me it's relationship building with maybe the public or MPs or sometimes celebrities. With Michelle, she's relationship building with homeless people, with people on drugs, with people with addiction, with people with depression, severe mental illness. And I think that's just another level of how skilled you must be as a communicator to do that, but to do it so successfully and to earn their trust and loyalty. And every time, you know, every Sunday when she's down on the Strand, you know, people come because they trust her. It's just amazing that someone can do what she's done. And I think it's one of the hardest, possibly the hardest charities to kind of run, manage, organize, and be so prolific at. She's a doer. You know, she'll have an idea and she'll go with it. And I think that's also a very special quality to have in a person, individual, especially a campaigner or someone who's working in the field that she works in.
What makes Michelle utterly unique? There are two things that make her unique. One is that not only is she running a dog charity, but she's also running a human charity for the homeless people, which is incredible. I mean, that's a whole different genre and subject, but Michelle encompasses it all. And the other important point, the reason I don't like her is because she's funnier than me. She came on the show, and I tell you what, she was hilarious. She loves you as well, Mark, because she did tell me that, you know, because of the stresses that she endures in running that charity, she's got a few people that she calls personally to sort of help her out. And I know that you're one of those people. And of course, the fact that Peter is a patron of a charity says it all, really, I think.
And she embodies passion and commitment.
Yeah, really does. Yeah.
My next guest is somebody who really, I mean, he's a proper geezer. I love him to bits, actually, and he's another utterly unique character running an utterly unique charity. I am, of course, referring to the one and only pen farthing of the one and only Nowzad.
13 years ago now, when I was deployed here as a Royal Marine, I was sent to Helmand Province to a small town called Nowzad, basically nestled between the southern tip of the Hindu Kush Mountains, northern tip of the Helmand Desert. And we were there to basically stop the Taliban traveling through this valley to get to a place called Kajaki. And while I was there, obviously doing things that Royal Marines were sent to do, I ended up looking after this former fighting dog. It had been used, sadly, in a dog fight. I'd seen the dog fight taking place, so I broke up that fight.
Penn's like Jason Statham. He's like an all-action hero. He sometimes forgets to put money in the meter because on our first interview that all the lights went out. But then, of course, we are talking about a charity that is in the middle of the desert in Afghanistan. The whole thing is utterly extraordinary. The way that the charity evolved, what he's achieved, and what he's actually, the organisation he's got out there is incredible. Peter, I know that you, he thinks the absolute world of you, and I know that you have actually been to visit Penn out in Afghanistan.
I have indeed. I visited there in 2013, and strangely enough, I was just speaking to Penn this morning. The charity is in the middle of a mountain range rather than a desert, Phil. A huge mountain range surrounding Kabul, which is quite magnificent. And of course, you know, yet again, I am patron for Nowzad. And I read his book, One Dog at a Time, before I knew him. And I was very moved by it. I thought it's the most remarkable book. And where you have Marines who can't wait to leave Helmand Province and come back to the UK or go back to America or whatever their homeland is, to meet someone like him who is determined to stay there and follow his passion, which is to rehome and rehabilitate as many dogs as he can possibly can, is just so inspiring. And as you say, he is like an action hero. He's very brave and a very, very strong man. And when I was out in Kabul, it was for a program of trying to get the children on the streets of Kabul to kick a football rather than a puppy, because, you know, because of various, I hate to use the word because I don't mean it in terms of culture, but habits. The kids, because they're bored, would, you know, just be unkind to puppies and kick them around. So we went there with loads of footballs and gave them footballs, and of course they immediately were drawn to that and had much more fun playing with the football. And it was, of course, very compassionately productive because it stopped the poor puppies being kicked around as well. And he has schools programs. He has also been innovative in that he has provided work for so many women in Afghanistan and in Kabul.
Quite right.
So he's, you know, he is in so many ways, not just to do with animal welfare, but teaching locals to become vets and vet nurses and things like that. I mean, he has a broad outreach within Afghanistan, and it's all as a result of that wonderful dog, Nowzad, that came into Helmand when he was there as a Marine, and he fell in love with it.
What you say about Penn's other role in terms of humanity, because I did a show, and I did 2 shows with Penn, and in the second show, he introduced us to some of his wonderful staff, male and female, who he's been training and giving opportunities. And I was actually knocked back by the amount of opportunity and work that he's giving them in terms of education and how well received it was. The people of I'm so grateful to him. It was quite astonishing. It's only when you interview these people and go and visit, we gave us a virtual tour of it, that we learned so much. Mark, I know that you're very good friends with Penn as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've just Peter's pretty much summed up everything.
Sure.
I would say. I mean, Peter's also had the advantage of visiting him and knowing Penn more than I do. He's in an environment that is quite alien to so many people, and actually just takes it on in the most sort of beautiful way, and that's sort of fair to everybody, not just the animals, but to the people. And I think when these individuals, the impact that they can make, not just for animal welfare, but for communities and for countries and for regions and for the world, really, is quite phenomenal.
It is.
And it is down to just that incredible hunger to change the situation, not just for animals, but for the people. And just nothing's going to get in their way to achieve that. You know, we can do stuff in the comfort of sort of Parliament and the tea rooms and nice meeting rooms, but when you're on the streets like Michelle, or in Afghanistan like Penn, or obviously in China like Jill, it's just another level. The relationship building skills of these people are just mind-blowing to achieve what they've achieved in those environments in relatively short amounts of time as well. So big fan of Penn. I need to read his book. It's on my list. But yeah, I can't speak more highly of him. He's a great guy, and he's always supported the stuff I've done as well.
If I can just say, it's apposite that if I can just put a nudge to you, Mark, in terms of your upcoming next book about campaigning, which is a very, very important book. And I very often, people say, well, what can I do? You know, I'm just one person. And what's very important is to realize and to encourage every single individual to do something, even if it's just one thing, for them to do something. Because if you have 1,000 and then 100,000 and then 1 million individuals doing something, then you have an army. And it's very important for the single individual to realize that their voice is important.
I have been overwhelmed by the nature of every single person that we've had on Doggy People. Mark, what you've just said, there are doers in this life, and there are people who just sit on the fence and don't do anything. But every one of my guests, I've been bowled over by the level of achievement that they've done in all these different spheres. Now, one guest that I wanted to have on the show, especially because I'd researched this lady. I knew an awful lot about her before I brought her onto the show. And she is one of these people who I would refer to in some contexts as being an unsung hero, in terms of the level of work that this person puts out and the dangers that she puts herself in to save dogs is absolutely remarkable. And I'm referring to Alison Stanbridge of the tremendous charity called Paws to Rescue.
These are dogs that are in desperate need, they're in danger. And when you think that a rescuer has to drive 4 hours to a vet, it's wrong. Dogs are dying on the way. We are literally signing papers at the moment on the first vet clinic. We're actually buying a vet clinic. It's a joint project between us and them.
Alison works out of Romania, that's right, isn't it?
She does, yes.
Yes, I don't know a huge amount about her. I mean, I've spoken to her a few times. I'm very impressed by the work that she does. She's got fantastic outreach programs as well, going into schools and educating children in a country that has the worst relationship with animal welfare of any country throughout the whole of Eastern Europe. They have no concept of spay, neuter, and return as far as the dogs are concerned. They are treated abominably, and young children witness this horror, and this will go on to cauterize their natural compassion. And so she has programs, as far as I understand it, that go out to local schools in local communities, and she starts trying to teach them through her team to understand the importance of animal rights and animal welfare and caring compassionately for dogs in particular. So I think she is doing admirable work as far as that's concerned.
Mm. Well, she puts herself in danger. I mean, I didn't realise until I'd interviewed her that she actually has a daytime job as well. I think she works in insurance, but she goes to Romania every single month, and she's actually tracked down a very dodgy type of dog pounds in Romania, and she's broken into the dog pounds and taken out the dogs, and she's rescued dogs that would have otherwise remained in virtual slaughterhouses. And on one occasion, she broke into a place and she was apprehended by the owner, who put a shotgun to her head. And you know, that is really serious stuff. But she wasn't phased. To me, she's like someone off Who Dares Wins. I call her James Bond, actually.
I think it's worth bearing in mind that in countries like Romania, who have nil animal welfare, but have great indigenous rescuers who work so hard to solve problems. I think that Alison works with the indigenous rescuers as well. So yes. she is doing a terrific job as far as that's concerned. But somewhere along the line, the EU, I tried to bring this up in the European Parliament when I was doing some work with another charity, but in Bosnia, Suffering Strays, just trying to focus on the absolute dereliction of responsibility and duty that is shown by local mayors and local councils and government in Romania that are so corrupt and are so careless and abusive to stray dogs. It makes them, as far as I'm concerned, the pariah of Europe. And they should be forced to stand by the European regulations in terms of animal welfare, and it is not policed. And I think it is a dereliction of duty on behalf of the European Union as well. It's appalling.
You know, it's only by sort of investigating and speaking to these people who are activists in the area that we can hopefully, you know, bring around some form of change. At least we're highlighting the issues. And as Mark, you know, said before, it's a collective response to all of these different situations. I thoroughly admire Alison. I think she's an admirable lady. And she's a very great friend of Angela and Martin. It was Angela and Martin who actually, they're very big supporters, and they introduced me to her. She is remarkable. Now, my next guest, Peter, steady yourself, because I know that you are really going to be enthusiastic about this lady, because to me, my next guest is to me, she's really like the Madonna of animal welfare.
Is it not Lyra? Is it not someone called Lyra?
I paid to get into her podcast. I mean, you know, and the thing is, look, I'm just going to say her name, and the minute I say her name, Jill Robinson.
Well, there you are.
I told you.
As I looked over to the beach, there was a guy walking his cat on the beach. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'll pop over and say hello and meet the neighbours. And it turned out he was the Asia rep for the International Fund for Animal Welfare. And I just said to him, gosh, I used to support IFOR when I was, you know, back in the UK and do fundraising and things for them. So if ever you need anyone to help you on a volunteer basis, I'd love to do that. And as it happened, he did. When he left, I took over his role, and that, as they say, you know, is history.
Peter, I'm gonna let you start off the little discussion about this person.
Well, Jill Robinson is the most inspiring person on the planet. She's an amazing human being, and the charity she founded, Animals Asia, is, I think, the most remarkable and, for me, the best charity on the planet. They do precisely what they say on the tin. They are the best run charity that I know. The money they raise, the greatest portion of it goes to the animals and not to the maintenance of the organization around it. They have 3 sanctuaries, 2 in China and 1 in Vietnam. The work they do in terms of the care, rehabilitation, and enrichment that they give to these damaged bears is so remarkable that it defines for me the very meaning of animal welfare and animal rights. And this all comes from the founder, and that's Jill. She always amasses the most extraordinary team around her. She is generous, she's giving, she's compassionate. She's just an all-round amazing human being. I visited the sanctuary in Chengdu twice now, and each time I go there, I feel like I'm in bear heaven, really. And she saw before anyone else just how wonderful bears were, how funny bears were, how forgiving bears were, and of course, how horrendous their lives are on these biofarms where they're trapped in crush cages, have no life whatsoever. The average lifespan for a bear is 30 years, and many of them live in those cages for 30 years in a confined space where they can barely turn around and they have their bile extracted on a daily basis. It is horrendous. And she is doing remarkable work, and she has brought the problem to international attention, and she continues to work, I think, in the most difficult country in terms of how you deal with humanity in general. She's remarkable.
She absolutely is, and she's just such a lovely person.
Absolutely.
And she's so easy to talk to, and she was very informative during our interview, and she didn't even tell me off. Embarrassing, because I believe I started off the interview by telling her that I used to live in Hong Kong, where she lives, and the reason being because I was in ladies' underwear at the time.
Well, you don't wear ladies' underwear, do you?
Pardon?
You don't wear ladies' underwear, do you?
No, goodness, no. I don't wear any underwear. But Mark, I know that you're very you're
No, I don't like it. I'm not a fan. I don't like the charity either.
No, I knew you'd hate it. And that's why.
Load of rubbish, mate.
Yeah.
I would gush as the same as Peter. I mean, you just can't speak more highly of one individual that's created so much good for animals, for people, for the world, for China, for changing attitudes, changing public behavior. She's the epitome of the utmost of what it's like the gold platinum standard of what a campaigner is and does. Absolutely. And excels at and succeeds at and inspires others. I mean, it's mind-blowing what she's done. And as Peter said, I mean, I've been out there once to Chengdu, just seen her in action as well. Just seen her in her workplace. I've assisted operating on a moon bear, but as well as the moon bear stuff, which is just mind-blowing in itself, there's other stuff that the charity does, like the Dr. Dog stuff, and going into communities. And I remember one day we went to visit a group of blind people with dogs, and they got to touch the dogs, and you could see how that really changed their lives. So it's moon bears for sure, but it's also dogs, it's also people, it's just a whole package of Animals Asia. It's just wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I wish more people knew about the charity, and I say that for two reasons. One, I just think everyone should be aware of the work they do and how inspirational they are. But also, when I was in Chengdu, I visited the giant panda sanctuary. Now, the giant pandas, of course, are the national symbol of China, and of course everyone goes crazy for them. And I found it sad that you've got this unbelievable breeding facility with people coming from all over the world to visit these incredible animals that are just pampered from the minute they are born and sort of displayed in the nursery that you kind of walk through, take pictures of, and the pictures always go viral, as you know, baby pandas. A few minutes away, really, a few miles away, you've got these abused bears, they're just different bears coming in from the same country that have had less than zero respect for their lives. And I think that is the contrast of national symbol versus sort of bear bile industry moon bear was was quite upsetting. Again, it's one of my favourite expressions that Peter came up with called selective compassion, which also kind of works for bears in China, because there's the celebrity bear and there's the abused bear. I wish Chinese people would respect the moon bear as much as they respected the panda, but that's what Jill's doing. She's making that happen. She's making the connections, and honoured to obviously call her my friend, and I will do anything to support that charity.
And should I just mention, before we move on, that I'm ambassador, of course, for animals.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Peter. I completely concur with everything you both said about Jill, and that's why I refer to her as Madonna, because I think she's the global superstar of animal welfare. I came away from speaking to Jill really overawed, because I've learned so much again. I didn't realise how involved she is with all animals. So, as you say, a magnificent, outstanding, charity, a world leader. So that's the end of part 1 of our review. And I think my 2 new boys are doing quite well, don't you think? Yes, a big round of applause for them. So you know what to do. Get involved. Please email me, tweet me, heckle me. Let us know what you think of the show. And of course, if you can, please make a small donation to any of the charities that are being featured. That's it. Join me next week when we'll have part 2 of #DoggyPeople. Stay safe, love your dog, and cheerio.